Hello, my Teaserking family. Welcome back. Talking gold and economics, and I wanted to show you um, the whole thing with Gaddafi. I ran a test on it yesterday, which was basically to show if it would be, what do you call it? There'd be a problem with, sometimes I show the wrestling ones and I get it. I can't think of the word where they don't allow it. But apparently the Gaddafi one went through. So let's talk a little economics and then we'll get on to the videos. Gold price is 23.40, silver at 27.22. We know it's serious price fixing. We understand why. It's amazing listening to Mark McGuire today, and he had Andy Shankman on, and they just don't get it. They really don't. They just don't understand. Hey, Greg and John. So why do you keep the price down of anything? So people can buy it. So the U.S., you got to understand who runs the U.S. J.P. Morgan has the monopoly on printing money. So if you have a monopoly on something, you don't want competition. Therefore, since J.P. Morgan prints it, if gold gets too expensive and everybody runs into gold, nobody will want to be in dollars. So it's as simple as that. They're fighting it, but they're playing a losing game because the rules have changed where you have to have gold to actually do the derivatives and do the shorting. I don't know how much they make on the shorting. I know it's a big game, but the game's being broken up. However, that's why we see silver still fighting because the game's still in with silver. But with gold, if you don't have the physical, you can't just sell 500,000 ounces of gold that you don't have anymore. That's what they used to do to keep the price down. So it's been as high as 23.52 as we talked earlier. It bottomed at 10:30 at the 10 o'clock crap at 23.32, and it's 23.40 now. So we still see 23.50, 23.60 today. This is the bottom. And as I said, there is no profit taking because you'd have to be an idiot to profit take gold. It's not a stock. So the example I used, if you own Coke at $20 and it goes to $50, you say, I'm going to profit take. You profit take because it went up so much, but you don't think it's going to go up anymore. I made a lot of money at 50. I'm going to sell it. But what are you going to do with the sale? Well, I'll go back into Coke when it goes back down to 20, or I'll jump into another stock. Okay. And then I'm going to be able, let's say Coke goes back down to 20. I can buy it at 20 again. Okay. You can't do that with gold. Plus, you don't know that gold's going down because it isn't. So if I bought gold that's weird. If I bought gold at 1,500 and it's up to 2,500, let's say, I made $1,000 an ounce, and I got 100 ounces. And I hate doing this because the math's so hard. So 100 ounces, and it goes up $1,000. So I don't know. Let's say it's $1 million. 100 times, 1,500 to 2,500. So it goes up 1,000 times 100 is 3. It's 5 zeros. So I've gotten one with 5 zeros. So I've got $100,000. So I made $100,000 on my gold. That doesn't seem right. 100 ounces times 1,000. 100 times 1,000. Let me go to my Excel spreadsheet here. Yeah, that's 100,000. Okay, so I made $1,000 on 100 ounces. So I made $100,000. But you got to realize with gold, there's premiums, and with gold, you're selling it at 2,500. It ain't going back to 1,500. So at best, you're going to buy it at 2,400. If it gets that low, and how low is it going to stay? And then you have to find 100 ounces to buy, which you can't. And then you got to pay a premium. So you're really going to buy at 2,400. You're going to buy it for 2,500. So you're not profit taking anything. I mean, 100,000, and basically to buy the 100 ounces back, it's going to cost you the 100,000 that you got back. Oh no, it'll be, so you sell it at 2,500. So let's say, so it's 2,400. So it goes down 100, but with premium, it's the same. So now it's 1,000, or it's 100 ounces at 2,500. That's 250,000, and you paid So you paid 150,000. So you bought 100 ounces at 1,500. It's now 2,500. So you've turned 150,000 into 250,000. So you walk away with 100,000 in profit. But now you got to go buy the 100 back. So you take the 100 ounces again, and now you got to buy it at 2,500. Is 250,000. So the 100,000 you made, you bought 100 ounces at 1,500, 150,000. You sold it for 100 at 25 is 250,000. But now you got to buy it back. So if you can buy it back at 2,500, you're at the 250,000 again. So what was the point of, there really isn't a profit taking. So what's the point? So that's why it's not profit. You don't profit take gold. It's not like stock. So in my Coca-Cola, it goes from 20 to 50. I buy 100 shares. I sell it at 50. So I make $30 for 100 shares. Then it drops back down to 20. I buy it again. So I've made the profit of $30 or $3,000 I make. However, if you're if you can get it for the 20, see, there's no premium in stocks, but gold, you're going to pay that $100 premium. So whatever you sell it for, you'll be lucky to buy it back at. So there goes your profit, right? So you make 100,000, but now you're back in dollars, which you can't be. You want to get out of dollars, so you buy it back if you're lucky enough at 2,500 an ounce. Because even if it went down, it's not going down that much. It's not going to go from 2,500 back down to 1,500. Then I could see profit taking, but it's not going to do that. It's going to sit there and go from 2,500 to 2,400, like you can see now. Even if you profit sold it at 24, it's 2,340. with the premium, it's 24.40. So what you sold it for, yes, you made your profit, but then you got to buy it back. Just like you would buy Coke back. So you'd buy the 100 shares of Coke back at $20, goes up to 50, you make the $30, and then you wait for it to drop and there's no premium. But this is not, gold doesn't do that. Plus with gold, you have to be able to find the 100 ounces that you sold. So if I sell my 100 ounces and I say, okay, geez, okay, I profit took, now I want them back. Does he have them back? A. B, can he even if he has them back, can he then with the premium, I'm going to maybe pay more than what I sold them for. So I'll take the profit, but that's why it's not a profit taking experience, because I can't. First of all, like if I sold Coke, maybe I buy Pepsi. Okay, here, if I sell gold, I buy gold. So there's no other choice, and it's going to drop. So you really are limited to, with the premium, but to profit take, you need it to drop. You need to sell at 24 and then hope it drops to 2,000. And not going to happen. Anyway, so that's why it's not profit taking. It's the derivative price fixing, and they need to address this. They need to add, I don't see, JP Morgan obviously runs the government. They were involved with the Madoff Ponzi scheme. They had the SEC turn away of the JP of the Buffett, the Warren Buffett, the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. So the SEC, that guy's telling the SEC everything that's going on, and JP Morgan's just saying, just turn the other way, and they did. That's why they never did anything. A fifth grader could have saw the Ponzi scheme, but that's what they did. I'm a good talker. I'm a good talker about things I know about, and I know this cold, so I can easily talk about it. And then the best part of this is you get confident talking about it. I get good feedback from you and Bobby and Luke and Nick and everybody. And so one guy asked me about doing football. And I says, well, if you're going to do what I do for football, you sure as shit better know what you're talking about. And you sure as shit better pick winners. Because if you don't pick winners, nobody's going to listen to you, because they're only listening to you to get the winners. And that's what I told him. So I don't know what he did. I never heard from him again. But basically, that's really the key. I got a phone call about gold today, and he says, well, you're into, you buy gold and silver or something. And I just said to him, I think I'm in over your head. I don't think, we're not on the same plane. You're not on my level. Like, what are you trying to talk me into buying gold? Like, really? You're talking to me about that? Okay, good luck. So anyway, that's what we have. So we're looking for gold to go up, obviously, because the only option is paper. I was listening to some guy, he's from China, and he was talking like economics about the war in the Ukraine. Like, the U.S. is going to war to get out of debt. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I think he's a Keynesian, because how does a war get you out of trouble? The only reason World War II got the U.S. out was because we were manufacturing and getting paid for all the tanks and planes and bombs and everything that we used. That's not what's happening here. Nobody's paying us to do it. We're giving money to the Ukraine. I don't know what's happening with Israel, but he's trying to say, well, you need a trade surplus. Who's got a trade surplus? I'm looking like, what's this guy talking about? Okay, I know everything there is about Austrian economics. I don't see how a war benefits you, because at the end of the day, you're printing more money, which is useless because it's not backed by gold. So how in God's name would a war help you get out of debt, and build your economy. It's got to be a Keynesian, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, we won't go there. All right, let's go to Gaddafi. So let me set the table. So here's Gaddafi. Now, this is a very sad story. All right. Sorry, this is what the test was to see if it was going to get blocked, and I didn't get any notification. All right. So we all know who Gaddafi was.
Create a pan-African.
All right. Gaddafi was the leader of Libya, like a general, and he went to the gold standard, and everybody in the country benefited. You didn't have to pay for school. You didn't have to pay for health care. Everybody had good jobs. He had built this water reservoir and these pipes to take the water from the whatever the sea is there all the way into the desert, so everybody would have water so they could eat. That's what I laugh about We Are the World. Why don't you? What a Ponzi scheme that was. What a scam. We Are the World. So somebody made millions of dollars and didn't have to pay the singers a nickel. What a joke. Okay. So here's the setup. So what Hillary Clinton and NATO does to Gaddafi is very sad. And he figured out this is a great thing about gold right here. This is the gold standard and why it works. And then people who know it's going to work, what they do about it. And it's just terrible. So let's go.
Currency threatened to upend the global financial system. And you'll learn why Western powers felt they had to take him out, no matter the cost. Brace yourself for a mind-blowing expose that will shatter everything you thought you knew about the Libya intervention. The truth is uglier than you could imagine. Before NATO's bombs rained down, Libya under Muammar Gaddafi was a prosperous nation. The Libyan people enjoyed free education, free healthcare, and a right to housing. It was a far cry from one of the poorest countries in Africa that Libya once was. Gaddafi's crowning achievement was the Great Man-Made River Project, one of the world's largest irrigation systems. This massive infrastructure project brought water from the desert to the cities and coastal regions. It turned vast stretches of arid land into fertile ground for agriculture.
The most ambitious irrigation schemes in the world. It's called the Great Man-Made River, and it flows beneath these sands. It is colossal in scale. 500,000 concrete pipes have been made and laid down over the past 2.5 decades. 6,000 kilometers of pipeline. Engineers digging deep into the bowels of the earth to tap into ancient aquifers. Libyans call it the eighth wonder of the world.
But Gaddafi didn't stop there. He established a state-owned bank that provided interest-free loans for development projects. No more crushing debt from the IMF or World Bank. Libya was charting its course, free from the shackles of Western financial institutions. Gaddafi had big dreams for the rest of Africa too. He wanted to spread Libya's economic model across the continent. No more reliance on former colonial powers. Africa could finally be truly independent and self-sufficient. This bold vision of African unity and prosperity terrified the West. How dare a small nation like Libya defy the global financial system they controlled? Gaddafi's unorthodox policies made him a threat that needed to be eliminated. Gaddafi wasn't just dreaming of economic independence for Libya. His vision extended to the entire African continent. The centerpiece of this bold plan was the creation of a pan-African currency called the Libyan Golden Dinar. This new currency would be backed by Libya's vast reserves of gold and silver. In an eye-opening email from April 2nd, 2011, Hillary Clinton's confidant, Sidney Blumenthal, revealed the shocking details. Gaddafi's government held a staggering 143 tons of gold and a similar amount of silver. Worth over $7 billion, this precious metal stockpile was intended to establish the Pan-African dinar. If successful, this move would have dealt a devastating blow to the global financial system.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second. What does this tell us? It tells us that Sauron's scared of gold. Sauron being Hillary Clinton. They're terrified that anybody comes out with a gold standard will destroy the fake US dollar because it's not backed by anything. That's the importance of backing your money with gold. Gaddafi does it. The US doesn't. Why the US doesn't, I have no idea. Probably because then they can't print more and they like printing money and putting it in their pockets. The most corrupt government I've ever seen in my life. He wants to make all of Africa gold standard, but the problem is there's a lot of gold and diamonds and minerals, iron ore and stuff like that, zinc, copper in Africa, in the mines and everything else that the US wants, and France. So they keep Africa poor so they can't fight them, right? Then they won't let them get on the gold standard. They won't let them do that reservoir, which would save everybody, feed everybody. Then we wouldn't be doing We Are the World because they'd be doing We Are the World for us. It would destroy the U.S. system. So what does the U.S. system do? They bomb Libya, which we'll get to. So now you understand why they push the gold price down. Does this help you understand that because they are scared of gold, that they don't want the gold price to go up, because if it does, they realize they're screwed. So they keep fighting gold. To answer you, Greg and John, that's the problem. They're fighting gold and keeping it down because they can't compete with it. Now, are they going to destroy BRICS? You ain't going to touch the Russians and the Chinese. These aren't the little Africans that you're going after. Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi were both doing the same thing. And that's the point. So they are frightful of the gold-backed currency, which is what BRICS is do. So BRICS learns from this, and they go, we'll do our own gold-backed currency and let them try to blow us up. We'll nuke them. And here we go. And then the professor reads all this. And I knew this before. I knew this in 1995 and started buying gold. Because if they're afraid of it, it must be a good reason to own it. And that's the best reason I can tell you, is that you can't compete with gold. Gold's number one. Where is Hillary and Sick Willie? Hillary, they just showed you. She's here. Where they are now, I have no idea.
Dominated by the US dollar and European currencies, like the French African franc. For decades, African nations had been stuck using these colonial-era currencies, perpetually indebted and exploited by their former imperial masters. But the Libyan dinar threatened to upend everything. It offered Africa a path to true economic sovereignty. No more playing by the rules of the Western banking cartels. This symbolic break from monetary colonialism was simply unacceptable to the powers that be. The leaked emails also exposed the pivotal role played by France in the decision to overthrow Gaddafi. According to intelligence sources cited in the emails, French spies were the first to uncover Gaddafi's currency plan.
If you're an opinionated person like I am and you'd like to give your opinion about everything, I highly recommend.
Sources cited in the emails, French spies were the first to uncover Gaddafi's currency plan. This discovery sent shockwaves through the corridors of power in Paris. For French President Nicolas Sarkozy, Gaddafi's vision struck at the heart of France's interests in Africa. The emails outlined 5 key factors that motivated Sarkozy to lead the charge for military intervention in Libya: a desire to gain a greater share of Libya's oil production for French companies, increasing French political influence and dominance in North Africa, bolstering Sarkozy's domestic political standing in France, providing an opportunity for the French military to flex its muscles on the world stage, crucially addressing concerns that Gaddafi's Pan-African currency threatened to supplant French monetary control over its former African colonies. For centuries, France had exploited its African territories through the French African franc. Gaddafi's plan jeopardized this crucial economic stranglehold. It's no wonder Sarkozy felt compelled to act decisively to crush this upstart African maverick. To fully grasp the earth-shattering implications of Gaddafi's Pan-African currency plan, we need to understand the foundations of the global financial system itself. This system is built on a complex web of debt, exploitation, and monetary manipulation by a cabal of private banks and financial institutions. It all stems from the concept of fractional reserve banking. In simple terms, this means that banks can essentially create money out of thin air through the lending process. For every dollar deposited, they can lend out many times more, keeping only a small fraction as reserves. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement further centralized this bank-created monetary system on a global scale. It established institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank to oversee and enforce the rules of this rigged game. But the linchpin holding it all together is the petrodollar system. Since the 1970s, global oil trade has been denominated exclusively in US dollars. This artificial demand for dollars allows the US to perpetually accumulate debt while exporting its inflation to the rest of the world. Any nation daring to challenge this financial hegemony faces swift and brutal consequences. When Iraq's Saddam Hussein began selling oil in euros in 2000, it was all the pretext the US needed to unleash its shock and awe military campaign just 3 years later. Gaddafi's plan to freely trade Libyan oil in a new Pan-African currency posed an existential threat to the petrodollar system and its domination by the US dollar. It's no wonder the financial elite felt so threatened by this African upstart. Gaddafi wasn't the first leader to challenge.
So, what's happening now? There is no more. We've gotten rid of the what is it? Euro dollar, or what do they call it? The petrodollar. It is no more. The petrodollar is gone. Saudi Arabia, since the U.S. wanted to go green and not use oil, Saudi Arabia said, go fuck yourselves. And so Saudi Arabia says, we'll take any dollar. We don't need the U.S. dollar. So they take yuan and other currencies. And then that's the beauty of BRICS. BRICS will say, here's a gold-backed currency to pay for your oil. Now, with the U.S. forcing dollars out everywhere, they all come back. There goes the stock market, there goes the housing market, there goes the dollar. So there's 2 reasons the dollar's gone. One is the petrodollar no longer, and 2 is BRICS with the gold-backed currency. They're double whamming the U.S., and that's all you need to know. That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold's going to say so. That's it. So there's no more force. So who's the U.S.? What are they? They're invading Russia, and Russia's beating them. And what do they want to fight? China. China doesn't want to fight. Where are you going to go? Oh, Iran, the Middle East. Nobody wants to fight the U.S. And the U.S. doesn't even have an army anymore, because you can see what they don't. There's no men in the Ukraine, and there's no men in Israel. Yeah, well, you guys fight. Imagine getting into a fight after school. I'm actually not going to show up. I'm going to have Joe over here fight. I'm going to have Bobby fight for me, the proxy.
Challenge the petrodollar system and face severe consequences. Cast your mind back to 2000, when Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein made a bold move that would seal his fate. Hussein announced that Iraq would no longer accept US dollars for oil payments, instead demanding payment in euros. This direct threat to the global dominance of the dollar set off alarm bells in Washington. How dare a defiant nation like Iraq undermine the very currency that underpinned American economic might? Within 3 years, the US had cooked up dubious claims about weapons of mass destruction and launched its catastrophic invasion of Iraq in 2003. Saddam's real crime, it seems, was his attempt to free Iraq from the shackles of the petrodollar system. His execution at the hands of the new Iraqi government was a grim warning to any other nations thinking of bucking the status quo. Gaddafi, too, understood the power of the petrodollar and its role in perpetuating Western economic imperialism. In the years leading up to the NATO intervention, he had begun making moves to distance Libya from this rigged system. Libyan oil was increasingly being sold in currencies other than the dollar, chipping away at the currency's artificially inflated power. But Gaddafi's most audacious plan was the creation of the Pan-African Golden Dinar.
If I keep seeing you guys fall for those $6,400 subsidy ads, I'm going.
If this currency had taken root across the resource-rich African continent, it could have sparked an unprecedented shift in global financial dynamics. Whole nations would be liberated from their bondage
Gold's
to
always
the US
the king.
dollar and the rapacious Western banking machines that controlled it. This wasn't just about Libya. It was a direct challenge to the entire existing global financial order that had kept Africa impoverished and subservient for centuries. No wonder the financial elite viewed Gaddafi as such a grave threat to their dominance. With the legions of NATO warplanes raining down devastation, it quickly became clear that the stated humanitarian objectives were a mere fig leaf. The relentless bombing campaign aimed at the very infrastructure that sustained ordinary Libyan civilians, with chilling disregard for human life. One of the main targets was the Great Man-Made River Project, Gaddafi's crowning achievement that had brought a water lifeline to the cities and fertile regions of Libya. NATO bombs directly struck the pipeline itself,
Why?
as well as the factories
Why
that
the fuck
produced
would
the
they do
pipes
that?
needed for repairs and maintenance. It was a deliberate, cold-blooded attempt to cripple this vital irrigation system that over 2/3 of the population depended on for water supplies and agriculture. Destroying the very...
Why the fuck would they destroy that? Okay, you don't want the money because it's gold back and you're not smart enough to have gold back, or you're too corrupt. You want to keep printing the money. That's one thing. Why the fuck would you blow up the water supply? What are you, insane? What is that? So you basically murdered all these people. So you want to go sing "We Are the World," Michael Jackson and these other guys, stupid morons. Yeah, that's also held for review. There you go. I guess morons and idiots have to get that, but I agree with you. Why the fuck would they do that? So, we can say fuck, but we can't say idiots and morons. Why would they do? What is the point of that? So we're gonna blow up the pipeline so everybody can have water in Africa, even the lions and the giraffes and the tigers, all get fucked because they didn't use the dollar. Well, why didn't you come out with a gold back currency, or why didn't you try to do something about it? But in a free market Austrian economy system, it would have been competition, and you would have had to come out with gold back currency to match their gold back currency. That's Austrian economics. In the Keynesian world, they go, no, we'll just keep printing the money. And if you don't agree with us and you come out with a gold back system, we're gonna kill you. What the fuck is that? What is that? That's not we're the US, you can trust us. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. All those people should have went to jail. Hillary Clinton should have gone to jail for 1,000 years. What is that? And NATO. Now, where does this come from? This comes from Russia, our favorite country now. American angry as Russian leaks classified files about Gaddafi murder. This is coming from Putin. So he's saying, look what happened, right? And so why Hillary Clinton's allowed to be free is beyond me and all these people and the whole military. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. How do you kill somebody's water supply? What are you, out of your fucking minds? You can't do something different. He's trying to get a gold back. And then guess what happened to the gold, right? They probably stole it all. So you killed the whole African country, a continent. And now recently here comes Russia, and all of a sudden Zimbabwe comes out with a gold back system. The guy didn't get killed. Russia's now backing all these countries, and the US can't do shit because Russia is much more powerful. So Russia is not communist at this point. It's not the Soviet Union. It's capitalist. They're going on the gold standard. Communist countries don't do that. They go on dollars and print them. So this is the part that really, when I see we are the kids, or we are the world, and they're all these idiot singers who can't sing are singing this song, and some guy's getting rich out of all the sales. Well, you think it all went to Africa, and then what would it do in Africa? It wouldn't go anywhere. It would go right back to the U.S. because they're in control of Africa. Oh, it just when I saw this, and then I saw that, I said, "This is how stupid these idiots are."
Means of survival for millions of innocent people could hardly be labeled a humanitarian intervention. But the wanton destruction didn't stop there. Schools, hospitals, and other civilian facilities all came under repeated assault from the NATO bombardment. Even the humble residential homes of ordinary Libyans weren't spared from the indiscriminate rain of high explosives. In a bitter twist of irony, it was the NATO forces themselves who were responsible for many of the civilian casualties they claimed to be preventing. Hospitals overflowing with wounded civilians stood as grim testament to the reality on the ground. As the Libyan writer Maximilian Forte observed, it was NATO's intervention that arguably tilted the scales in favor of a new breed of human rights violators who would make Gaddafi seem tame. So much for protecting human rights and freedoms. What the leaked emails revealed was that this massive civilian suffering wasn't just an unfortunate byproduct of the war. It was an intentional tactic to punish the Libyan people for the unforgivable crime of nurturing dreams of independence and self-determination under Gaddafi's leadership. Humanitarianism had nothing to do with it. As the full extent of NATO's wanton destruction in Libya became clear, one expert voice cut through the fog of war with a chilling assessment. Professor Maximilian Forte, in his meticulously researched book, Slouching Towards Ceuta, laid bare the intervention's true objective: to disrupt an emerging pattern of independence and a network of collaboration within Africa that would facilitate increased African self-reliance. In other words, Gaddafi's grand vision of a united, self-sufficient Africa posed an existential threat not just to the global financial order, but to the very ability of Western powers to continue exploiting the continent's vast natural resources and human capital. This revelation helps explain one of the most puzzling aspects of the Libyan conflict: the mysterious emergence of a rebel central bank just weeks.
Is this invention going to put eye doctors out of business? These self-adjustable glasses are taking the world by storm.
aspects of the Libyan
Commercial.
conflict. The mysterious emergence of a rebel central bank just weeks after the fighting began. How could a ragtag group of insurgents so rapidly establish such a complex financial institution amidst the chaos of war? The answer, it seems, lies in the shadowy hand of foreign interests and their determination to preemptively disrupt any move toward true African economic sovereignty. A rebel central bank could swiftly reintegrate a post-Gaddafi Libya back into the very global financial system that the maverick leader had sought to escape. This wasn't just about Libya, however. The leaked emails expose how Gaddafi's Pan-African ambitions had sent shockwaves through the corridors of power in Paris, Washington, and other Western capitals. His dreams of a gold-backed African currency threatened to loosen the stranglehold that European powers like France had exerted over their former colonial territories for decades. Lurking behind the talk of human rights and democracy was an age-old story of imperial conquest and subjugation through economic domination. Africa's vast mineral wealth, bountiful oil reserves, and cheap labor represented a treasure trove ripe for continued plunder by the West. Any move toward genuine independence and self-determination had to be nipped in the bud, no matter the human cost. In the wake of NATO's military onslaught and the grisly lynching of Gaddafi himself, Libya was plunged into chaos from which it has yet to fully emerge. The nation fractured along tribal and regional lines, descending into a protracted and bloody civil war between various militias and factions vying for power. Far from the promised democracy and freedom, ordinary Libyans found themselves trapped in a nightmarish cyclone of violence, lawlessness, and human rights abuses on a staggering scale. Reliable reports from groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch documented widespread torture, arbitrary detentions, kidnappings, and extrajudicial killings becoming the new normal. In a bitter irony, it was the very NATO-backed rebel forces that were often responsible for some of the worst atrocities, the same forces sold to the world as liberators and champions of human rights. As a grim reminder of this reality, thousands of detainees, including children, languished in squalid prisons without access to proper judicial review. All of this unfolded against a backdrop of economic devastation and institutional collapse. The country's vast oil wealth and economic potential lay in ruins, coming to resemble more of a failed state than the prosperous, self-reliant nation Gaddafi had fought to build. Yet in the face of such catastrophic human suffering,
Gaddafi was the
very
leader
leaders who had
of Libya,
green-lighted the military intervention
the president.
engaged in a nauseating victory dance.
Boo, boo.
Hillary Clinton's boastful,
Asshole.
"We came, we saw, he died" statement, delivered with a callous cackle, encapsulated the utter disregard for
bitch.
Libyan lives on display. Her premature victory lap seemed ripped straight from the pages of imperial hubris. It echoed the misguided pronouncements of past Western leaders, convinced of their civilizing burden to uplift the so-called barbarians. Except this time, it was NATO firepower, not the white man's burden, that had systematically demolished a once prosperous nation. Amidst the fog of war and propaganda, the leaked Hillary Clinton emails stand as a damning smoking gun, exposing the true motives behind NATO's intervention in Libya. These candid communications shed harsh light on the real forces driving the decision to unleash hell on Gaddafi's
I like the
regime.
red uniform
In
better.
email after email, there is barely a whisper of humanitarian concern or outrage over alleged atrocities. Instead, discussions revolve coldly around money, oil, and raw geopolitical self-interest. Toppling Gaddafi is framed as a means to an end, entrenching Western financial and resource domination over the entire African continent. It's a brutal revelation that upends the lofty rhetoric used to sell the Libyan war to the public. Grand talk of freedom, democracy, and human rights was merely a fig leaf, barely concealing the hard-nosed pursuit of power and profit. Foreign policy decisions of this magnitude were made not through moral conviction, but brutal calculations of how to preserve the global financial status quo. The lessons of Libya should serve as a chilling wake-up call to any nation daring to challenge the existing world order. The obliteration of Gaddafi's regime was a message written in blood. Any serious threat to Western economic domination would be met with overwhelming military force. For the people of nations like Iran, Venezuela, or any other resource-rich country dreaming of economic independence, the implications are grave. Attempts to forge new financial systems or abandon the petrodollar should be construed as grounds for violent intervention under the pretext of humanitarianism, and the threat extends beyond just alternative currencies. Any ideology or model that challenges Western-style capitalism and debt-based financing could find itself in the crosshairs. The restructuring of global trade routes and control over vital resources. No economic chessboard is too big or too small when the empire's interests are threatened. Worryingly, the leaked emails reveal just how entrenched and systemic this mindset is within the foreign policy establishment. An entire cast of influencers, from career bureaucrats to brazen corporate lobbyists, stands ready to persuade, cajole, and apply pressure to defend their vested interests worldwide. The ugly truth laid bare in the Clinton emails should disturb anyone who values peace, self-determination, and human life over the naked pursuit of money and power. Libya's destruction was not a humanitarian intervention, but a mercenary campaign fueled by oil, gold, and the desperate need to preserve U.S. financial hegemony. Moving forward, we must scrutinize official narratives peddled by the political elite and mass media with clear eyes. Hidden motives often underpin even the most well-packaged military actions. Critical thinking is our greatest weapon against being misled into supporting unjustified conflicts. What other examples can you think of where humanitarian claims mask ulterior geopolitical motives? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
So Gaddafi was the president of Libya. A lot of oil and gold and stuff like that. Hillary Clinton was Bill Clinton's wife. And when she lost the election, Obama made her like Secretary of Defense or whatever bullshit thing. That's how she had the power to do this. When was this? It was when Obama was president. I don't know, 2015, 14. And then somewhere in that time frame. And that's why I'm kind of glad to see what I'm seeing with Zimbabwe, that he didn't get killed. They didn't bomb Zimbabwe. They sure as shit aren't going to do anything to Russia and China and India. So that's what the Ukraine war, look who they're going to war with, Ukraine, because they want to stop Russia from doing this. China, so they make up this thing on Taiwan. China and Taiwan they're on the same side to stop China from doing this. And so they're doing all they can. Only no, we don't have the military to fight Russia or China. You can see we're getting killed by Russia. We're getting they don't even want to go to war with China. And so basically what you have is they can't stop it. And now we're going to see gold go up. And now you understand why you see gold and silver being pulled back down, because they can't, who are they going to go to war with? 80 countries in BRICS. So they can't go to war to stop this like NATO tried to. Or NATO's trying. See, NATO and the U.S. knows it's all over. And they know, well, look what we did to Gaddafi. Let's do it here. And they can't. So NATO's freaking out because they can't. Who are they going to destroy? You're going to destroy Russia? No chance. They're not Libya. They have a military. So what did we do? We went into Saddam Hussein, Iraq, who had no military. We went into Gaddafi, who didn't really have a military, unfortunately. So they were able to do it, but not Russia, not China. You're not touching them. So here goes gold, and goodbye, U.S., and good riddance. The U.S. reminds me of Darth Vader, where they're trying to control the whole realm, right? And they send in their fighters to destroy anybody who's against them. Basically, it makes me sick. Africa, they stopped the water to Africa. Africa, they want to stay poor. Okay. Yeah, they stopped the water to Africa when they blew up that whole, underground thing. Africa, they want to stay poor. What is that? What is that? A question? Africa, they want to stay poor? No, Africa does not want to stay poor. That's why they wanted to go on the gold standard, because they're in a lot of debt with the U.S. and France, and they wanted to get out of the debt. And the way out of debt is with gold. So they came out with gold. They had 150 tons of it, which is not a lot, but it's good. God, China's got 60,000 tons. Oh my God. So you're not bullying China around, and you're not going to beat them. You're not going to fight them. They have a military, and Russia. And that's why these countries are joining BRICS, like Brazil and Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia doesn't have military, and Iran. Russia and China will protect them. And you got to give them some gold, and that's why they're all buying gold to pay Russia and China, and they'll protect them. But you got to be careful when you don't protect yourself, what happens. So with that said, that is the problem. No, Africa does not want to stay poor. They want to keep Africa poor because they have a lot of gold, and they have a lot of oil, and they have a lot of zinc and copper and everything else, all the minerals. And they have cheap labor. So the guys working in the diamond mines, they probably don't pay them anything, or the gold mines. And so they've got all these slave laborers, and they want to keep them in dollars. Africa says, no, we want gold-backed currency. We don't have to listen to your bullshit. We don't have to get on this debt currency. And you can see where it's blowing up now as they can't really do anything. Here comes Zimbabwe. We're coming out with gold-backed currency. That's it. The party's over. So the U.S., ambivalent to having their own gold, and thinking, well, we'll just destroy these countries. Well, they can't. We don't have a military. It's like my cousin Vinny. It looks like we have a military. Look, we have a military, and it's that. But when they show you the card at the right position, there's no brick in it. There's no military we have. We've given all our weapons to Ukraine or whatever, all the planes, the trucks, the missiles. So we've given all that away. We don't have an army. So we can't go into these places, maybe these small African, but not Russia, China, India, and these other countries. They've got good football teams too now, so you can't destroy them. So that's the problem. So this is the bullshit that the government does. Thank God Hillary Clinton did not become president. I don't know if Russia had a hand in keeping her out when Trump won or what. But Hillary Clinton was this close to being the president in 2016 and not Trump. And then she probably would have won in 2020. We wouldn't have had this idiot in charge now. So they didn't want Trump because Trump wouldn't do what they wanted. Hillary Clinton, I mean, they're so corrupt. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, very corrupt people. And this is the problem. And how they get into government and get elected is beyond me. That shows you how corrupt the system is. But that's where they want. Well, the water was in Africa. He just made a pipeline that took it from, under the desert, there's water. So he dug down to where the water is in the desert, so everybody had water to eat and drink and, feed your dog and wash your clothes because it's desert and most people don't. Not We Are the World songs, but actually do something like that. Michael Jackson do something like that instead of singing. And I've lost a lot of respect for the singers. When you get to the point, what are you? You sing, big fucking deal. What is that? And people go to these concerts like a bunch of idiots. What are you going to the concert for? Well, I want to hear Michael Jackson, or not Michael Jackson. He's good, but I mean, some of these idiots like Bruce Springsteen. What do you go to that concert for? The guy can't sing. He can't sing and he can't dance. He's not the honky tonk man. So I don't really understand why anybody would pay anything and go see a concert of anybody. To me, it's the biggest bore, waste of time. There's no game. There's no winner or loser. You're hearing songs. Well, guess what? The songs are on YouTube. Just play the songs. Why would you go to the concert? What a fucking bunch of idiots. And half these guys just can't sing. Willie Nelson can't sing. This guy, Springsteen, can't sing. Cyndi Lauper can't. I mean, they can't, Karen Carpenter could sing. Okay. The Beatles could sing. They had good melodies. That was music. This is crap. And so I thought that, what's going on. But if you want to help, that's what you do. You put in a water pipeline. So then if you're worried about starving people and feeding the people, build a pipeline, not do an album and then get about lots of money. What happens to the money? Well, sure as shit ain't going to Africa because they had all the gold, which I'm sure went and got divided by NATO and the U.S. and Hillary Clinton and all these people. I assume ended up with all that gold. But we don't have it because we don't have any gold here. So when you need the gold back, when you need the gold standard because you printed your fucking dollar to zero, see, and they don't like to hear that. So they like to keep this is why they keep doing the derivatives and keeping the dollar, keeping the gold down. So you won't think to own it. That's the bottom line. It's exactly what they try to do. And people like me are going, don't fall for that shit. You can't keep printing the dollar. It has no value. Gold is your only savior. It's the savior of Rome. That's it. I don't know why I'm talking gladiator today, but Marcus Aurelius, the savior of Rome. It just seemed to fit. But that's the point. They are the savior. And that's what you have to understand. That's what I keep trying to force down you is buy the gold and silver. Look what happened to Gaddafi. But why did he do it in the first place? To get off the bullshit US dollar system. And that's why do you think BRICS is going to gold? To get out of the US dollar system. Because it's a debt-based system. It can't work. And, so the whole thing's blowing up. It worked because of the petrodollar. It's gone. Nobody's buying. We get off of oil, right? So how we're in the petrodollar, so we get out of the oil. So now we're out of the petrodollar, and we'll sit there with wind and solar. What happens if it's not a sunny day or a windy day? The energy doesn't store. Oh, we'll have electric car. Well, the batteries don't store the energy very well either. So everything we're doing to get out of oil for some reason is just fucked up because that's not the answer to get out of oil. All you're doing is pissing off Saudi Arabia. So there goes your petrodollar. Oh, we're coming out with a gold-backed currency. Look what you did to Gaddafi with it. So that's what I wanted to play, and I wanted to make sure it wouldn't get blocked. Which is, I played it for 5 minutes yesterday, and then I didn't get any notices. So I'm going to subscribe to this Malini Journal. Greg and John, they said that some Tesla cars have issues with car safety. All of them do. They blow up. If the power gets shut off, you can't get out of the car. It locks up on you. In the cold, it doesn't work. In the heat, it doesn't work. Imagine driving in Vegas and the car shuts down and you can't get out because it's electric. Yeah, there's a lot of safety issues with the Teslas. Now, here's a silver problem. Apparently, these missiles that they make, I don't know if they're Stinger missiles or whatever, have 50 tons of, or maybe 50 ounces of silver in each one, or 500, let's say 500 ounces of silver in each of these missiles, right? So as they make it, there's silver inside the missile. I guess it blows up with the whatever when it blows up. Well, multiply that by all these missiles. It's a certain type of missile. I'll play Mark McGuire and we'll see it. So that's one reason they're keeping the price of silver down. Because they can't, if silver goes to 2,000 an ounce and they need it for these missiles, see, it's the industrial use of silver that's actually keeping the price down. It is money, but the industrial, Tesla needs it for the batteries, and China needs it, and India needs it for the solar panels. And more importantly, we need it for our missiles, where we put 50 or 500 ounces of silver in the tip of the missile that blows up. And we're making a ton of them. So we need to keep the price down. It can't go to market. So it is not a free market for the silver. And you can't replace silver. Silver is usually the best thing to use and the only thing to use. There's no real replacement. They would use gold, but gold's already too expensive. So this is why silver's down. This is why it's manipulated so they can sell it, but they're running out of silver. So as they're trying to play this Ponzi scheme, making Madoff smile. So you're doing a Madoff here. You're keeping the price down so you can keep, for these missiles, buying the silver cheap. But there's only so much silver out there, and there isn't any more left. You want silver, you're going to pay more for it. So that's how silver COMEX ends. And that's how we start saying $500, $1,000 silver, is because they won't keep the price down because they'll need it. But there isn't any in COMEX or the ETF, and it's all gone now, and it's all in other people's money. And then I'm not selling my silver at 28 an ounce. Give me 2,000 an ounce, I'll sell it. I have no idea. No, I ain't selling it for $28. So let's go to Mark McGuire and we'll listen to that. So now you know, in other words, what have I always told you? There's a reason the price is low. It's so somebody can buy it, right? That's why they keep the price down. Clearly, so somebody can buy it. So gold is kept down so somebody can buy it. It's the buyers, China, Russia, and India, not the U.S. They're too stupid to buy it, or England or Canada. They're too dumb to buy gold. How the fuck can you not want to buy gold? Why did you destroy Gaddafi and his gold, and then you're not smart enough to buy gold? What the fuck is that all about? So with that said, that's why they keep the price down, so somebody can buy it. Totally manipulated, totally price fixed by JP Morgan. And guess who has the monopoly on printing money in the U.S.? Yes, JP Morgan. They own the printing press of the monopoly of printing the money, and therefore they can print $1 million, so they don't want you in gold. They want the dollar to have value. So if you have a monopoly and all of a sudden it loses value, there goes your monopoly. And guess who blew up the monopoly? COMEX, Russia, China, with the gold. You don't have a monopoly anymore. I can go buy gold-backed currency. I can go to Zimbabwe and get gold-backed currency. So there is no monopoly. Now, the U.S. throws its weight around and used to have this big military, which they don't anymore. And it's just insane. Why is the U.S. doing this? The U.S. should not be doing this. This is not how you run a country. You do not do this to people. What's wrong if Africa had gold? Then they would have been profitable and they would have been very successful and their people would have been much better off, which would have helped us. Then they would have created things and we would have bought and we would have created things that they would have bought. When we went into China, the problem was, I remember I was at Ford at this time in the late 80s. And the thing was, Ford kept saying, well, all the engineers, they're cheap there. We only have to pay $10,000 for Chinese engineers. And then as soon as they got wind of it, it was now $100,000 for that. But the thing was, nobody in China could afford a car. So there was no benefit of being in China because unless the people can afford it, it doesn't matter. So then now they started making more and more things. And again, a few are really rich in China, the oligarchs, the communists, but most people are poor there. So now they're getting a little bit better off and you can sell more things to China. But now the whole idea of getting cheap labor is gone. So now we're going to India to get cheap labor, or we go to Mexico to get cheap labor, or whatever. So you got to be careful with that. But it only works if people can afford your products. So nobody in Africa can buy your products. Well, if you would have let them have the gold standard and let them grow, you have a whole marketplace in Africa of people that would have bought a Ford and a GM, or would have bought a TV or a stereo or a Michael Jackson video or whatever. And that's, you don't want to narrow data. I don't mind if people from Africa buy Teaserking. That's fine with me, or people in Russia or Europe, if they want to buy Teaserking. Problem is most of them don't understand what football is. So my audience is normally limited to the US, but this is the problem. So it's incredibly crazy that we murdered Gaddafi because he wanted to go on the gold standard and feed everybody and provide water for the whole country of the whole continent of Africa. He provided hospitals, free education, and you kill the guy. What are you thinking? What are you, insane? What would be the point? Oh, well, they were coming out with gold back currency. So what? Well, we could have stole all their gold and all their copper and zinc and, what the fuck's wrong with you? I mean, so why don't you blow up, Europe and the other, and China and Russia? Why don't you blow all them up? I mean, because they're competition to you. I mean, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. It really is. So just try to grasp the understanding how corrupt this was. And let's see. So let's look
other
at
people's interests into consideration. That's what markets do. They do affect our.
I know where I would think they'd have big families to count on. Many more say they have no one.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite of what people expect. They think that in traditional societies with enforced communities and collective policies, people would say that they have more people to trust on, more friends and more loyalty. But it's the complete opposite. It seems like in traditional and less market-based societies, between 20 to 30 to 40% say they have no one to count on if they need help. Whereas in the richest and most individualist societies, it's in the low single digits. And it tells you, I think, that enforced community doesn't really create community and solidarity.
Because they're told capitalism hurts the poor.
The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer.
But that's just not true. The poor get richer too.
Norway! It's as socialist as they come.
And here's another myth. People say Scandinavia is socialist.
Instead of Cuba or China, think Sweden.
Look to countries like Denmark, like Sweden.
But Sweden isn't socialist. Some time ago, pre-Beard, I made this video about that with Swedish author Johan Norberg. But there was more to that interview and our more recent one on his new book, The Capitalist Manifesto. So here's our full discussion about capitalism, the left's push for degrowth, and Scandinavian socialism. All I hear is that Sweden is this socialist paradise.
Well, we tried with something that was similar to socialism for a brief interlude in Swedish history in the 1970s and the 1980s. And that's the period that even socialists in Sweden now say, we overreached.
What happened?
Well, in the 1970s and 80s, that's the moment when the Swedish government started to expand dramatically. Taxes rose, regulation was all over the place. And that's the moment in time when Sweden began to lag behind the other countries dramatically. There were no new net jobs created in the private sector, no new international companies. Sweden lagged behind to the extent that we went from being the third richest country on the planet to the 13th richest country on the planet.
13th isn't bad. Doesn't sound like a crisis.
But it makes it difficult to fund all these policies that Sweden had. So they started to print money. So we had a debt and inflation-fueled boom that ended in a terrible crisis. To defend the Swedish currency, the central bank even had interest rates at 500% for a while.
What made it a crisis?
Well, suddenly all those systems that people depended on, the pension system, healthcare, and so on, didn't get the funding they needed. So there were waiting lines to get healthcare. People couldn't get the pension that they thought that they depended on for the future. So everybody suddenly realized that something else has to be done.
And even the socialist-leaning politicians agreed?
The socialist minister of finance in Sweden said that our policies have been unsustainable, sometimes absurd, and the tax system is perverse. So even they wanted to dismantle the government that they had built.
So what happened?
Well, early 1990s, we had a wide agreement from the left to the right that we had to reform the economy, open up new markets, liberalize product markets so businesses could start in new areas, do away with occupational licenses and things like that, lower taxes, reform the pension system so that it wasn't unsustainable, partly privatize the pension system.
Privatize the pension system? That terrifies people.
Yeah, it does.
It means you're not guaranteed money from the government.
Exactly. It's only a defined contribution. You don't know what you will get. And obviously that scares people who want it a lot. But when they realized that the alternative was that the whole pension system would collapse, they thought that this was much better than nothing.
But Sweden is still cited as the socialist paradise.
When you look at our policies, we do have a bigger welfare state than the US, higher taxes than the US, but in other areas, when it comes to free markets, when it comes to competition, when it comes to free trade, Sweden is actually more free market. If you look at the latest statistics from...
So the point is, Sweden is not socialist or capitalist, but everybody tries to say, oh, look, socialism works, look at Sweden. And he's saying Sweden is not socialist, it's capitalist. Free markets, competition, everything else. How you doing, Luke? Bought another 100 ounces of American Eagles on the dip. I assume you're talking silver. I wish you were talking gold. There's something I need to show you about silver, which you'll could make you a little uncomfortable.
If you're thinking of selling your home soon, you don't want to miss out on this. Not only will I understand what will...
Okay, it's gonna take you a minute here. All right.
In so many things, not just in green and digital applications, but in just about everything, including military. And I find it also very interesting. And this is something that I don't think gets enough attention, is the military application. Now, I gave a speech at Jay Martin's conference in Vancouver, the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference.
How come I wasn't invited?
Everyone should check that out. It's a great conference. He does it every year up in Vancouver. But I did 2 years ago, and I mentioned that I always believed there was 500 ounces of silver in a Tomahawk cruise missile. And if you Google it, it will pop up. And I met a gentleman there. In fact, he gave me this cup. He works for the Department of Defense, and he said that he had actually worked on the Patriot missile program while he was up there this year. I gave a different speech this year. But he came up to me in the audience and he said, the things I'm going to tell you are declassified, so don't worry. But I worked on the Patriot missile program, and I got to tell you, you're right. There is nearly 500 ounces of silver in the tip of a Tomahawk cruise missile.
Now, are you going to ask me why silver isn't moving? Because they need 500 ounces in the Tomahawk cruise missile, 500 ounces of silver. And if they let the silver price go, as they should at free market, and if it was $200 an ounce, then it would be way too expensive to create these missiles. So because it's 500 ounces needed, they need it at the cheap price. That's why the price fixing. So they can make these missiles using 500 ounces of silver. Now, the good news is they're running out of silver to do this with. And therefore, the only way to get silver will be to not go to COMEX and not go to the ETFs that have it, but to go to the market and go to the mines. And the mines, it's not going to be that cheap at $28 or $29. They won't be able to keep that price. But this shows you why gold and silver is cheap. Silver mostly to use for batteries, solar panels for China and India, and these Tomahawk cruise missiles that need 500 ounces of it. Now, you would think they would have bought 1 million ounces so they would have enough, but they're too stupid probably. So you do the math, 500 ounces at 28 versus 500 ounces at 250. That gives you a real good reason why silver is being price fixed. Gold is not go. So what'll happen is there is no more silver left. Silver is basically gone, and so they need 500 ounces for these Tomahawk cruise missiles. Where they're going to get it from? It ain't coming from COMEX, and it ain't coming from the ETF. So now they got to go to the mine, and now the price action will increase. And once BRICS gets going, and China, they want to control the price of commodities. China, we got the gold, we got the silver. Why the fuck is the U.S. price controlling it? So they're going to want free market physical prices, and that's coming very soon once we get the BRICS going up. You got to watch the beginning of my video. I show Gaddafi having gold standard for Africa, right? He's trying to lift Africa, free healthcare, free school, and gold. And he made this pipeline project that pipeline water all the way through the desert. Africa's finally going to be a normal country. No more lions and elephants controlling everything. And Hillary Clinton blows them all to hell. And so he's trying a gold-backed currency. They don't want him off the U.S. debt currency, and he kills them. So there you go. Now here's this other end of it where they need silver for the Tomahawk missiles. What are they going to do? They're going to keep the price down. So when you get frustrated why the gold price isn't going up, why isn't it at free market? This is the reason. Why isn't gold at a free market? Because when Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi tried to do gold-backed currency, they got killed. That's why we're at war with Russia, and that's why we are picking a war with China. China won't go for it. That's what Taiwan's all about, but China won't go to war. And the U.S. doesn't want Russia to have a gold-backed currency, so that's what this whole thing with Ukraine is. But you're fucking with Russia and China, not Libya. So that is not going to happen. And NATO, why do you think NATO's not attacking Russia? Because they get killed. So this is what's happening. This is an insight into the price fixing. So we should start seeing silver move, because once they run out, and they can't have a lot left, and as we'll go on to other silver things with Mark McGuire today, where he just basically says people are calling him for silver. So all the producers who need silver to make solar panels, to make windmills, to make missiles, all need silver, and all don't have it. And so that is the key. They don't have it, and that's what's going to blow up COMEX, because they keep doing these derivatives with 10 ounces of silver controlling 500,000 ounces of silver and lowering the price. And then, but okay, the price is low, but okay, I need 500 ounces for, and I'm sure they're not making one Tomahawk missile. Let's say they make 1,000. 500 ounces for 1,000. Where are they going? Now they're going to call you, Luke, with what do you got? 100 ounces of American Eagles. I'm surprised you didn't buy the bullion instead of the Eagles, unless you're talking gold. Are you talking gold? Another 100 ounces of American Eagles yesterday on the dip. Now, I guess you're talking, well, I don't know what you're talking. Let me know if it's gold, but because silver, I would have bought the bullion, the Buffalo that I buy, the Buffalo Indian that are bullion at 27.8, but it could have been that too. I would think 100 ounces you're buying silver. Nothing personal, but I wish you could afford 100 ounces of gold. But I already talked about why it can't be price profit taking. There's no way, because you got the premium. So gold to go down $60, $70 is not profit taking, because it can't. And there's something on Mark McGuire on that, which I'll talk to you about. So let's listen to Mark McGuire talk about silver. I don't really like this Andy Scheckman guy. I find
he's not a big guy at all, and he played, receiver in the NFL for the Patriots when they were the Boston Patriots, I believe, and he's tough physically and mentally.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What's this guy do with silver?
As long as all of us have, it can make angry. The counterintuitive nature of ask yourself, why would 4 or 5 commercial banks have the short positions, most of them naked in gold and silver, the way that they do?
Price fixing,
which creates distortions in reality and creates a narrative that, gold and silver are just...
See, this is what blows my mind. How hard is it to understand? They're keeping the price low so somebody can buy it cheap. Like, why can't these guys figure that out? Is it that hard to figure out? Silver, okay. That's what I figured. Why didn't you buy the Buffaloes that are like $5 cheaper? But that's okay. I mean, what you bought is actual money, but I buy the bullion. I always buy the Eagles. They were 35. Okay, because I've been getting the Buffaloes now at like 29, but it's an ounce of silver. I don't really care about the Eagles, but that's okay. It's not that much. It's not like gold where you're paying a little bit more. But anyway, why is it so hard for these guys to understand? I'm keeping the price low so somebody can buy it cheap. It's insane. Hopefully someday I'll be able to spend all of them. I don't think you'll be able to. I think what you'll do is you'll take 10 and get an ounce of gold with it and have fun with another 20, 30 ounces of gold. And I don't know where you're going to spend the silver, because they'll probably have gold back currency. We'll go to Russia and have the gold back currency, or BRICS, some BRICS country, and you'll have that. You won't need the silver. You'll trade the silver in for the currency. But I'm thinking we should go to Zimbabwe. It's 13-1, so $1 buys you 13 Zimbabwe gold back currencies, gold back dollars. Are you kidding me? So I can give you $1 that's junk for 13 gold back money. So I'm like this close to find a Zimbabwe and going into the bank, and here's $1,000 US. I'll take 13,000 Zimbabwe gold back currencies. It was nice playing. See you later. Yeah, you won't spend them all, because they'll be worth so much that, like my gold, there's no way I'm going to cash all the gold in. I mean, it'll go to the girls. It's just, there'll be no reason. It'll be so expensive. You cash in 1 ounce and it's, you'll be living like a king. So I don't see where you'll cash in. I don't think I'll cash more than 10 ounces of gold in once it hits the price. And same with silver. It'll be, 4,000 or 5,000 an ounce. I'm going to turn a lot of it into gold, I'll tell you that. And then I got the Highland Mint silver, the Emmett Thomas and Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant silvers, which I figured those about $50 a coin now, because that's what they go for. Lemieux and Gretzky and Barry Sanders. They're all big name players. Kobe went up a lot when he died, and Jordan's always worth something. All right, let's see about silver.
Barbaric relics of the past when we know otherwise, and Bill and Chris know otherwise, and they have stood up not only to the counterintuitive nature, but to the naysayers and to the manipulation and all of the things that, I understand why Bill gets the way he does or feels the way he does. But yeah, I think he's beginning to feel vindicated, and he's been right. How many people would have thought gold would hit $2,400 when he was writing and it was languishing at $400, $500?
Bobby.
And the
Don't act like you're better than
us. Finally makes its move, and there's so many fundamentals that are growing by the day that you talk about all the time, and I try to talk about that will make that happen. But the one thing that I've learned along the way, is that the fundamentals that we see, the logic, if you will, sometimes has an inverse correlation with outcome, at least in terms of when we think it will. But in the end, when you
okay, this is supposed to be recent silver price action. My comment on this show was this guy talks a lot, but he doesn't say anything. He just spent 2 minutes talking about, I have no idea. You're scaring me that the silver won't be recognized under a new gold-backed currency. Sure it will. I didn't say that. They're doing a gold-backed currency, but silver goes right with it. No. Okay, the bricks is going to be a commodity, right? It's going to be probably copper and silver and other assets, but silver is money and it will go with. So silver will go up. It's just playing a game now with these Tomahawk missiles and solar panels, where right now the price is down so they can build them, but eventually when they run out, all this does, Luke, is make them run out of the inventory. And what happens when you run out of inventory? The price goes to the moon because the demand's there, but there's no supply. And anytime the demand's there with no supply, price goes up, because then whoever has it says, oh, I have some, but you're not getting it at 28 an ounce. You're going to pay 250 an ounce. That's how the game works. So what COMEX is doing with these low prices is depleting the inventory. Here comes the demand with the solar panels and now these Tomahawk missiles. You're now creating demand for the silver, but you don't have supply for it. So now the price goes up, plus it's real money. So as the dollar goes out in all these countries, then you're going to want money, and gold's going to be way too expensive. Gold hits 10 grand. How many people are going to buy gold? They're going to buy silver because it'll be 1,000 an ounce. Once you realize you're fucked, that the dollar has no value, there's nowhere to look. It's gold or silver. That's it. That's the only real money there is. The dollar will be gone. And there's no other there's no other lifeboat to go in. That's the point I keep making. The Titanic's sinking, the dollar and the euro and the pound and the franc and all the dollars that are backed by nothing are sinking. And when you get off the boat, you got to find a lifeboat. And the only lifeboat there is gold and silver. There is no other lifeboat. Oh, let's buy British pounds or Swiss francs. That option isn't available. They are printed to 0 too. So the only option out there is gold and silver. And as everybody starts realizing this, we're again 5 steps ahead of everybody. Once they start realizing it, see what you just did by buying 100 ounces of silver. People are going to wish they did this in 6 months, 9 months. Once BRICS goes and gold-backed currency and the dollar goes out. Once this happens, people are going to wish they had enough money to buy 100 ounces of silver. So we're just ahead of the game. So don't worry. Silver is money, just like gold. But when gold gets that expensive, everybody will run into silver. And since it won't be price fixed, you're not going to have this up and down action of the government keeping the price down to keep you into the U.S. dollar, so J.P. Morgan can keep having the monopoly on printing the money. So don't be scared.
Base your conclusions upon mathematics and economics
Shut the fuck
with a
up.
sprinkling of old school logic upon it. Typically, these things pan out, and we're beginning to see some of that right now.
Yeah, and again, talk about being proved right. And I mean, way back when it was people used to talk about tinfoil hats, and of course, we had all the apologists saying manipulation. Are you? Of course, how could it be possible that there would be this kind of level of manipulation? You guys are crazy. And then, I mean, we fast forward to just a year and a half, a couple of years ago. And what did the DOJ call?
So I'm having trouble. Recent silver price action. They haven't talked about silver yet. They're still talking about manipulation. We already know that. We've known that for 2 years ago. So tell us something we don't know, Mark McGuire. So we talked about the military application of silver. It's in the Tomahawks. Okay. There's something he said. Well, let's go to the BRICS currency update.
Talking about Russia and China. First of all, we do have, and I know I'm going to be proved right. I just know it.
He knows it.
Because the people that have fed this information to us and are so well connected to it.
They're all Russians.
For 2 months now, Glashnev's second basket, not so much the SDR basket, was it just green lighted? It's been made clear that it was green lighted. It's also been beta tested for 2 months now. When we come into the Kazan meeting on the 10th, in the 14th to the 19th of May next month, it's going to be more on the table than anyone thinks. But everyone is saying, no, it's nothing. The de-dollarization aspect of having a gold-backed, commodity gold-backed iron, even grain, gold, all of this, possibly even silver. So you've got this currency. I mean, this is, if you just dealt with purely the energy trade, and the oil trade, that's a multi-trillion, hundreds of trillions of dollars a year. So, and considering that BRICS side of the world either consumes or produces this stuff, why would this not be the biggest de-dollarization curveball to hit all the mainstream media? It's years away. Don't think so. And China in particular, I know Yellen just went over to China, probably walking a tightrope on if they dumped their 3.25 trillion of treasuries, America would be finished overnight. So that's a financial nuclear weapon right there. But it's the other part. This is the part which all of this leads to. The fact is, you've got a first-tier asset. It is being now adopted by central banks all over the world in lieu of treasuries.
Talking about gold.
And so now you've got it's actually mind-blowing to me. Sedster, the ex-Treasury Secretary, on Bloomberg, they've buried this report. I published it not that long ago, and he basically said, the 3.25 trillion of foreign FX reserves that China holds is only 50% of what they really own. There's over 3 trillion of shadow banking reserves. What we're seeing now, and what we actually believe is going on, and really believe it, is that if you are now running into conflicts with the US on the South China Seas, you're sanctioning US companies now who are providing weapons to Taiwan. Things are moving to a head. You know what's going to happen when you are sanctioned. What happened to Russia will happen to you. You need to get rid of these US dollar reserves. We believe because gold is a first-tier asset class, and because it is being exchanged, this is what's happening. I believe these shadow banking reserves are buying monetary gold, which you cannot report, you don't report, and they are loading the boat and moving quickly to this crescendo. And I think, Andy, I think we're at the point here. I actually think within this second quarter, we're going to see something major blow up here, and things are getting pretty tense out there. But I'll shut up now. But I mean, basically, I think that China has moved to fully start to protect themselves from what is going to happen. They're going to sanction.
I agree, and in a way to do that, a lot of what started me.
See, this is the problem I have with Andy Shankman. He talks and he doesn't say anything. Mark McGuire at least said it. So what that just said was, in order to not be sanctioned is not to have dollars, because if I don't have dollars, you can't sanction me. So China is getting ready to unload all this bullshit T-bills and get gold with it. And I believe they've already been doing that with the shadow bank, whatever that is. Because when you look at their central bank has, 2,000 tons of it. They got 60,000 tons, China, and they're going to have more. And now you know why. And that's what all the central banks in the BRICS countries and Europe are doing, is getting out of the dollar before it's worthless, as what we're doing is getting out of the dollar before it's worthless. That's the Titanic. And so as they get out, what do you think the gold price is going? I want gold, but there's not that much. So the price goes up and up and up, because the panic of realizing the Titanic is 3/4 in the water and we better get the fuck off onto the lifeboats. Well, as the Titanic is now, they realize they're 3/4 in the water. Here comes the frenzy that we've been waiting for, Luke. Here's the frenzy of, oh shit, I need gold. I need to get out of the dollar before it's worthless. Like I said, we're good boys. We're already 5 steps ahead. We've already bought our gold and silver and whatever else we can buy now. It doesn't matter. It's just little dessert. And we're just waiting for the Titanic to sink. And then we're in the lifeboat and we're fine. And that's where we're at. So it's coming very soon, especially when they announce the gold-backed currency. Then it's all, I'll do a show whenever that happens. Luke, I don't mean to scare you. I'm concerned nothing will blow crazy up in price this year. Oh, it's soon. Probably once new administration is in office and changes will be made with the new currency. I'm not sure there'll be a new administration. We'll see if there's if we have a election. There's not a lot Trump can do. And Trump's starting to sound like he's controlled also. I think the only way Trump can get in is to listen to George Soros. No, but the price, see, what happens is you can't control the price. This is communism. You try to control the market with the government, but it doesn't work. You try to price fix, but then there's no items on the shelves because you've made it too cheap and nobody's producing it. So they were showing whatchamacallit, Argentina, and people shopping and there's nothing on the shelves. Well, that's because you're price fixing it, and price fixing never works. So if I need to sell my Canadian club, if it costs me $50, I need to sell it for $75 to make profit. And you're price fixing it, and the government is saying you can only sell this for $40. Well, it cost me $50. Why the fuck would I sell? Why would I make it? I'm not going to make it anymore because I can't sell it at enough to make profit. So the shelves are empty. That's the problem with price fixing by the government control of the market. They can't control the market. Canadian Club has to control the market, and me and you determining if we want to buy it at the price they sell it. But you can't price control anything. It doesn't work. It never works. And that's the problem. But no, it's blowing. It's already starting to blow. Because you got to realize when these countries go gold back, they need gold. The demand's there, and they will pay whatever because they want to get out of the dollar. See, so as everybody gets out of the dollar, a lot of it is that the dollar controls price The dollar goes out, the price goes to the moon just because the dollar's gone. So by all these countries getting out of the dollar and the dollar losing its value, the price goes up just from that, but it's also from the demand. I wouldn't worry about that. You're not buying it specifically to time it. You're not, well, I got it today, so in a month I need it to go up this much. That's not what you're doing, Luke, is saying, I know this is going to zero and I'm out of it before it goes to zero. And I happen to see that gold and silver are our saviors. And so I'm getting out, and then gold and silver are going up because of this. But you're out of it. And that's your first goal, is to get out of your dollars, and then you replace them with gold and silver. So that's your first goal. You've done that. That's your problem, losing all your money. Well, you're not going to lose all your money. You're in gold and silver. Now you're just waiting. Okay, maybe it takes a little bit longer. We don't know the exact date, but we can smell what's cooking, and we can see bricks coming out with gold and silver and all the commodity and all the gold-backed currencies, and that forces the price up because the demand for gold and silver is huge. Price has to go up. You can try to JP Morgan it and derivative it, but it doesn't work. You can't. If there's too much demand, you can't hold it down. All right, let's see. I'm not sure where this part is.
Andrew, I really do believe, honest to God, we're at the foothills of a once-in-a-generational move. And
nobody cares what you say.
Either you see it for what it is or you don't. And I believe it's too stupid to be stupid. It's intended.
You're too stupid to be on there.
To be the world. And by the way, let's not forget Jared Bernstein, the lead economic.
He still hasn't said anything.
Google Jared Bernstein dethroned King Dollar. This is a man who's written reports on.
He talks, but he doesn't say anything.
Currency is a privilege we can no longer afford.
I don't like this guy.
Well, let's weaponize the dollar. Let's sign an executive order to go green, which is the linchpin of the hegemony. We'll weaponize the dollar, making everyone in the Southern Hemisphere never trust us again. We'll destabilize the crap out of our country, create massive divisiveness. Because where we are right now, I think there are some big bar tabs that need to be paid, if you will.
I think, again, I want people to play this back twice. You've encapsulated everything, pretty much everything. You've distilled it down to something that's imminent.
What did he say?
About to happen. You've also put in there, you need to protect your wealth. It's not about making money. This is about now.
Yeah, but this isn't, he's not original in this.
Your only refuge, because so basically what's going to happen now is, and obviously we can now see, in fact, the mainstream media, they report, I don't understand, must be central banks buying, I don't understand, but hang on, but there's not enough volume going through the LBMA to warrant such a rally. What's going on? Well, hey, it's exactly what we're just saying. It is monetary gold being first-tier assets being converted into monetary roll, swapping your dollars, your pounds, your euros for physical gold, and you settle them outside of the ring fence. That's what's happening. This is a trajectory that won't stop. It is, as you've just outlined, not on this particular rant, the one before. It is absolutely being targeted. This is a target of the game has become so obvious, it's ridiculous. Sometimes we used to pull our hair out and we go, everyone must see this. I mean, like, for example, that silly little event on Friday.
Listen to that.
On Friday, when the very millisecond that London went home, Europe went home, Asia was already absent, what happens? They take back $2 in silver, and they take back $86 in gold. Oh, just to the exact tick where the COT cutoff was last time, to the tick. Now, obviously not a coincidence. And so then you get the CTAs, these dumb guys who we talk about, the useful fools, as we call them, And they go, oh, well, clearly there's a top being carved here. Let's believe the narrative that there's a gold correction happening. So they all not just sell, they go short. And then what happens is immediately it gets bought. And who's buying it? Nothing, no one in the West is buying it. And it's all going. So thank you very much, man. It's off. And off it goes. So again, we've reached a point where, an inflection point, this is history in the making. I think what you're saying, what we're trying to say here is, look, this is just about education. This is about taking responsibility for yourself and your family.
We already know that. So that was the answer. That we remember when gold dropped $80-$90 and silver $2. So silver had hit like 39 or 29.75, and gold was 24.15, and all of a sudden it just went boom. That's what he was talking about. And then they tried to say, "Oh, that's profit taking or correction," which it wasn't. They did it on purpose, but they didn't buy it. Everybody else bought it. All the BRICS countries bought the gold and silver at the cheap prices. So that's what happened, which is what my point was. It's all price fixed. It was not a correction. It was not profit taking. It was bullshit of them dropping it. But then they're not smart enough to even then buy it at that price. So that's what happened last Friday, when we're all going, what the fuck? Why did it drop $80? So that's what was happening. Okay, Luke, I got some more for you.
More secure, but treasury bills, okay, we will see how secure they are. But then at the bottom, we see gold. And when this complex crumbles,
Gold
I
to
think
green.
we will see, Egon, gold prices that nobody can imagine today.
That's correct, and I've been saying that quite a while.
Listen up, Luke.
Gold and silver also, but gold is the number one. This is the king of the metals, and gold will reach levels that no one can imagine today, as you said. So that's a fact, and that's not sensational in any way. And of course, this pyramid is, as it shows there, is inverted here, as it's shown. But of course, the bottom of this pyramid, or the foundation, more importantly, you should call it, should be gold. This whole system should rest on gold. Now it's resting on just fake instruments, whether that's fake money or fake derivatives. Derivatives, of course, is the biggest financial asset there is today. As we said, 600 trillion officially, and I think it could be in the quadrillions. And that, in my view, and I've been talking about that in many articles, I think that at some point these derivatives will come under attack, and of course counterparty will fail. And when counterparty fails, then the whole system will implode. In the beginning, central banks will try to print money to save the derivatives market. But you cannot, when you talk about world GDP being 100 trillion, and you talk about at least 600 trillion of derivatives, and as I said, might be in the quadrillions, they cannot print enough money, and the money they print will become worthless. But initially it will become bank debt, and that's why bank debt will increase exponentially. But it will be meaningless because it will be totally worthless. And at some point in the next few years, that will implode, and then we'll have a real problem in the financial system. Then there'll be bank closures, and then there'll be defaults. Stock markets will crash, bond markets will crash, money will be worthless. There will be absolute catastrophe in the financial world. And sadly, as we discussed before, we have no world where also the geopolitical side is also extremely fragile. So we're in for very dangerous times now, Jan, as we mentioned in the beginning. That's what David Webb is talking about on the financial side, and yes, I have a great fear that it is going to materialize that.
And it might materialize quicker than we think.
But gold is king. So gold's going to hit prices that you can't imagine. I'm saying 50,000. It's very conservative. Again, that's as the dollar is saying bye-bye and goes out. Then we come into the gold world. And I've talked about the gold universe. And really, the system's fine. It's medium of exchange. So we go to work, we get paid, we take the money, we pay our bills, whatever's left, we buy gold with. And that's it. That's the Adam Smith medium of exchange world. So nothing changes except we don't use this anymore and we don't use this anymore. These are gone. These are worthless. These are toilet paper, replaced by the Zimbabwe and the BRICS gold-backed currency. And so we'll just use gold-backed currency to get our paychecks and to buy our tuna fish and everything else. And the value will be through the roof. You won't even understand the value of it. And then it won't be in dollars anymore. It'll be gold. And as I say, you buy a house, I got an ounce of gold. And you'll buy a house with it because it'll be worth so much that the people owning the house are going to be so blindsided because they're in dollars watching them go to zero and watching the stock market crash and watching the banks crash. That the only thing that's not going to crash is gold because you can't crash it because you can't print it. Luke's 2 boxes or 100 ounces you bought today, you can't print it. There's only so much silver. There's 500, 600,000 tons. That's it in the world. And of that, and when you put it in, electric batteries in Tesla, or you put it in solar panels and it wears out, it's gone. It doesn't last. Gold, you can't, gold's indestructible. Gold is number one. You cannot get rid of gold. I'm wearing Caesar's, whatever Caesar wore. It got melted and returned, and now I can be Caesar. Not silver. Silver wears out and it's gone. And so you've got to understand gold will be the medium of exchange and silver, just like the Roman Empire had gold and silver. And that's what we'll do. And the more gold you have, then you're king. That's the name of the game, just like now. But it'll be priced in gold. It won't be priced in dollar. It won't be gold's worth $50,000. It'll be gold's worth a house. Gold's worth a Ferrari. Gold's worth whatever it can buy, and it'll buy a lot. And that's how you have to look at it, because when the dollar goes, I don't know what the groceries. Well, let's see what happens in Zimbabwe and BRICS. I'll keep an eye on BRICS, right? So, Daria goes and buys candy and it costs whatever. All right, how much is it going to cost in gold? Well, let's say it's 100. I give her $100. She gets 90,000 rubles because rubles are 93 to 1. So as that happens, the rubles don't buy much. As it comes into gold, all of a sudden, I give her 100 gold dollars, or she gets gold dollars. She'll fill her cart with 5 gold dollars. Will fill the cart, because that's how much the dollar is devalued, and the ruble's even worse. They just print it and print it and print it, and then the more you print, it just isn't worth anything. You can't fuck with gold. You can't print it. So that's why when he says it's unimaginable dollars, it's not going to be dollars. Egon, it'll be gold, and gold will be worth what gold's worth, which is a fortune because it's so limited. And that's where we're headed. And that's why we're protected. And that's why I use the Titanic, because it's all going to sink at the bottom of the ocean. And we need a lifeboat. And that's why we get into gold and silver. And the value of the gold and silver will be 1,000 times more than the dollar's worth now. And that's how you have to look at it. And you're fine with gold and silver. you're absolutely fine. You're protected. You have the protection. Once silver breaks out, it could go all-time highs quickly. Well, add at least 1 0 to that 48. I mean, I'm telling you, conservatively, it jumps to 5. It'll go 50, 255, and then 1,000. That's where it's headed, because the demand for silver is huge, and they're keeping the price. But if you try to buy silver from COMEX, you can't. It's not. There isn't any out there. And now you just heard Mark say that you can't. You saw the price fixing going on. That's what I said. It must be a holiday in China. Well, it was. They waited till they went home so nobody could buy, and that's why we saw it go down to 3,000. Or gold went down to like 2,300, and silver went down to 26, and then immediately got bought back because they're like, oh, if it's going to be this cheap, I'm buying it. But as they do it, there's less and less gold and silver available to do these COMEX bullshits. So we are at 23.38 gold. So you saw the run on gold there, right? The 10 o'clock dot, and then after the 10 o'clock drop, boom, 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 and 23.38. But it's slowly headed. It got to 23.52, and then silver at 27. But if you look at the pattern, right? See the pattern? Now watch. I switch it to silver. Holy shit, it's the same pattern. That same 10 o'clock drop, only it's a little more severe in silver, and then it pounces back up. And that's where we're at with it. So silver, but I wouldn't worry. Silver's still controlled. Gold's not controlled because it's now a tier 1 asset. So it's not. It's 23.38. So gold's not controlled. Silver's still controlled. We need more time. But as they try to get silver, and they can't, eventually they can't control the market anymore. So there's the thing with Mark McGuire. Oh shit, I'm an alligator again. I thought I was in Mark McGuire.
Numbers. And for decades,
Our media.
See, I can't figure out Andy Schachman. I never heard a guy talk and not say anything for an hour. Just amazing. There was something about silver that Mark said. What he was saying is people are trying to buy it from him. I don't know where that exactly is. We talked bricks, protecting wealth, we know. Let's take a quick read. So I'm in the transcript. I don't know. But anyway, it's where Mark was trying to find silver for his customers. The customers are now coming to Mark going, do you have any silver? We need 2,000 tons. So there's a lot of buying of silver that they can't be solved by COMEX because they don't have it. And the more they try to leverage, that's what the derivative is. So they have like 5%, and then they sell 95% more that they don't have real gold and silver. And this is the problem, right? So they have, let's say 50 ounces, and then they're trying to sell 1,000 ounces. Well, they don't have the 1,000 ounces of gold. How the fuck can you sell it? You can only sell what you physically have. It'd be like, well, I got 30 Mark McGuire or Mahomes card. No, I don't. I got one, but I'm trying to leverage it with the derivative saying I got 30. So 30 people buy it. Oh, well, I really only have one. So the other 29, you got fucked. That's what they're doing with the derivatives, but it never really leaves the casino, as he calls it. Scary as I'm actually understanding when he says casino. He means COMEX. So at that point, the more they do the derivatives in gold, they actually need the physical gold. And that's the more they play games with it, the more they don't have the gold anymore. And then as they don't have the gold, they can't do it. That's why they ran to Bitcoin. I saw Bitcoin today at $63,000. So it got down to 61 and it was down to 63 today from whatever. So you still think you're going to get rich in Bitcoin. Good luck with that. Guess who's controlling that now? Yes, the BlackRock guy is controlling Bitcoin. So if you think you're going to make $1 million, good luck with that one. You want to trust that guy. Okay. Wow. Well, we'll know more after Russia, after Kazan, May 14th. I think we're very close. I think the wars are about don't go on the gold standard. I think that's why they're fighting with Russia and China, or trying to fight with China, and China won't even, they ignore them. China will not take the bait, and there was never going to be a war with China and the U.S. Not possible. China, they will never, Crimea, or not Crimea, whatever the fuck, the China island, that'll never cause a war. China and, I can't think of this one. Crimea, I can usually never think of. That's the island in the Ukraine that the Russians want for the Black Sea. Whatever that is, I'm drawing a blank, but China and that, they'll never go to war. And the U.S., China will never go to war with the U.S. They don't want a war. China doesn't want a war. Russia does not want to fight the U.S. Russia doesn't want to fight the Ukraine. And Russia's not, if you hear these guys on TV saying they're going to expand, they're not expanding anywhere. They're taking Odessa, they took Donetsk, they took Crimea, and they got Kharkov. All Russian cities in the Ukraine. They were always Russian cities. And that's what they're just defending those, and they're just taking those back. And Zelensky's an absolute clown, and they got martial law there, and Jenna says there's curfews there and everything. It's a fucking, it's a nightmare in the Ukraine. What the fuck are they doing? Why are they doing this? Does it make any sense? I know part of it's money, because part of it is BlackRock wanting to repair the Ukraine when the war is over. But Putin doesn't want war, never did. This is all the U.S. trying to stop them from gold-backed currency like they did with Gaddafi. You'll enjoy that part of the video in the beginning, Luke, the Gaddafi part. Hillary Clinton should be put in jail for life. She's sitting there, and they didn't like that Libya was going gold-backed currency. And then they killed the people, and they had this water project where the whole Africa was going to get water through this pipe, and no more lions, and no more dying, and no more we are the worlds. We got to send money, and the people starving of drought would all have gone away. And then why they attacked the pipe was beyond me, but they basically destroyed Libya and prevented everybody from having water in Africa, and the gold-backed system where everybody would have went to college for free and had free health care the rest of their lives because of the gold-backed currency. What the fuck is our government doing? They should all be thrown in jail. Taiwan, yeah, thank you. Taiwan and China will never go to war. They are the same. And the U.S. is trying to provoke it. See, for some reason, the Keynesians believe if you go to war, it'll help the economy, which it won't. You've printed the dollars. That's your problem. That's your inflation, and you can't unprint them. And so that you're fucked. Having a war won't help you with the inflation or the debt. See, they think in World War II, what happened was we stayed out of the war mostly, and we built equipment for Britain and France and Russia. We built tanks, and we built jeeps, and we built planes, and ammunition and everything like that. We built for them and we got money for them. And that's how we got out of the Depression. But you're not doing that now. Nobody's paying you for your weapons. We're paying Ukraine. We're giving Ukraine billions of dollars. They're not giving us money to create it. Well, that's part of what they're doing, I think. So in their warped mind, I think what they're doing is saying, we're going to give $800 billion to the Ukraine, in which we keep all the money for our defense contractors, sort of like what they did in World War II. So in their warped thinking, they think, well, we'll have these wars and we'll give all the money, but we'll give it to ourselves. So we'll say we're giving it to the Ukraine. We'll give it to ourselves to go to the defense contractors to make missiles and, and tanks and planes and whatever else. That's what I believe. That's how stupid they are, right? It doesn't work that way. But I think that's what they're trying to do, is have the war to get out of this depression and get out of this inflation, and it won't work. Printing money is the problem, and you printed money to give it to the Ukraine. Ukraine didn't give you the money. You printed it. And you're printing money to Israel. Whatever you're doing, wars aren't the answer to inflation and all the problems. Ask Napoleon, how did that help France get out of their problem? Oh yeah, they went out. They were the number one, and then they invaded Waterloo in Russia, and that was the end of the game. So it doesn't work. It only worked because we were out of the war and people were paid. That's how we got all of Britain's gold and everything else. They paid for the weapons because they couldn't manufacture. But that's not what's happening now. So they're living in a dream world. So I think very close. I don't know how that works. Maybe the chess game optics. How what works? The war. Well, I mean, it costs money for the weapons, for the ammunition, feed the men, the jets, the boats, whatever all the equipment and materials cost a lot of money, and you're not getting revenue in for it. So you're just printing, which creates more and more inflation and kills your value of your dollar. And you're too stupid to get gold. That's not, you guys are smarter than all of us. If you think we know gold's the answer. We know it's the answer. And you're like too stupid to understand that. Well, I can't help you if you're that stupid and you don't buy gold and then you kill your dollar by overprinting. See, the MMT people think, well, that's okay. You can print all you want. There's no consequences. Which we all know, of course, there's consequences. You can't, it's like eating a chocolate cake every day. It's going to cause consequences. You're gonna weigh 500 pounds. You can't just keep printing money and have no effect. That's impossible. See, that's what Austrian economics is about, and that's what inflation is. You've printed too much of it, and it doesn't have a value anymore. But the people in charge are Keynesians and don't understand that. Think we'll just keep printing. We'll have a war. We'll print more money, and it's going to end in disaster. And then here comes BRICS with the gold, and then you're fucked. That's checkmate. So yeah, that would be a check game. But that's it. That's the bottom line. And anyway, there's a part with Mark McGuire saying they wanted to they needed silver. So the supply is gone, the price goes up. Then we got one more Egon. This is a new Egon from today. And let's see.
There's another interesting warning sign about the stock markets. Amazon shares worth of 8.5 billion in multiple transactions this month. That was in February. Meanwhile, Jamie Dimon, CEO and chairman of JP Morgan Chase, sold 150 million in stock last week. His first cashing out since taking the top job at the bank 18 years ago. Around the same time, Leon Black, co-founder and former CEO of Apollo Global Management, shed 172.8 million in stock. Also a first ever stock sale. Similarly, the trust for the Walton family, heirs of Walmart's founder, sold 1.5 billion in Walmart stock this month. That was in February, but at least a small sign that they take precautions, while Joe Sixpack is still fully invested.
You don't
You
know
know my
that.
view about the stock market, Jan. The stock markets are in most incredible bubble levels. I think that during this year, and you never know what will happen, but during this year, we will see crashes in stock markets around the world. They're overvalued dramatically. The US market is being carried by 7 stocks, mainly tech stocks. They are the Amazons, the Apples, etc. Google. Otherwise, the US stock market is not going up. And at some point, we will have the reversal, and that will take everyone.
So all these bigwigs sold all their stock. What do you think they did with the money? So they got off the Titanic. Do you think they put it in gold? I doubt it. They're not smart enough to put it in gold. So they sold it, probably sitting in the bank thinking, oh, we'll wait till the assets drop and we'll buy a farm and a house and everything with our money, without realizing the money won't be worth anything. So they are selling their stock. So if we just keep an eye on what's going on, they're selling billions of dollars worth of stock, the bigwigs, because they know shit's about to hit the fan. Egon just said we're in a huge bubble, which is why I warn you, Luke, about buying your gold and silver stocks. Because when the shit hits the fan and the stocks drop, all the stocks drop. Not, well, wait, we won't drop gold and silver. No, because they drop because they need the money and they don't want to lose. So they're not going to trust gold and silver to keep its value. So that's what you're going to have, is the gold and silver stocks going down with the boat. That's why I warn you about buying them. Not because I don't think they're a good price, but the whole market is overvalued. It's just going to sell, sell, sell. It'll be panic time. It'll be getting off the Titanic looking for a lifeboat at the last minute. That's why I warn you about keeping your gold and silver stocks. Don't buy them yet. Just buy the gold and silver. That'll go to the moon. The stocks are going to get crushed with the stock market crash.
By surprise, and this is why some of the clever investors that you're showing, who understand what's happening, they're cashing in. They're right to cash in, because once this starts, no one knows where it will end. But I think 50% is a minimum, and I could see markets going down by 70, 80, or even 90% in the coming years. We don't know when it's going to happen. Could start strongly this year. The important thing is not to try to time it, but actually to protect yourself where you still can, because once the markets start going, they will sell on the margin. But most investors will hold on and wait for the market to correct. And that correction will never be big enough for people to actually sell that. So a lot of investors will ride this market all the way to the bottom. And that's very sad, when there is a very good chance of actually preserving your wealth now and turning some of that stock market gain into real money, which obviously physical gold.
Which is what I say, get out of the stock market. See, because you can't see it, you don't want to do it, right? Well, the market's not crashing. It's going, we're ahead of the game. We're 5 steps ahead of the game. So you want to be out of the stock. I've been out of stock market for 3 years. I don't care. I'm making a lot more in gold and silver than I could have made in the stock market, paid taxes on it. And would I still be in it or not? Where instead I've been buying gold and silver at very cheap prices, especially now that it's near 2,400. Well, with the premium, it would cost me more than 24. But I've been buying it at 17, 1,600, 1,800. And that's the key. So if you know you've hit the iceberg and you know the water's going in the boat, do you need to stay on the boat till it sinks? Or do you get off the boat knowing it's sinking? And that's what I'm telling you. We're sinking. We've hit the iceberg, which is the idiots printing too much money. We've hit it. It's sinking. And you go, when's it going to sink? And I go, well, it's sinking. When's the Titanic going to finally go down? Well, it will. And when it will, you just don't want to be on it. But I can't give you, Sunday at 3. All I can tell you is it's going down, and you're in safe haven. And in the gold, you're in safety. And the silver you bought, you can't lose. You can't lose what you did today. And that's what you got to focus on, and not, oh, I'll buy a house or I'll buy this. Don't even you're in gold and silver, just You're fine. You can't lose. Nothing can happen. Just enjoy it and just wait for the prices to go up, and then you'll buy your house. Gold, silver stocks will rise with the price of gold, silver. I think it'll be one of the only stocks to go higher while everything else goes up. See, that's where I disagree with you. Yes, in theory, because the gold and the silver are the inventory, but it's all gonna go. I mean, it's the market. People will say get out. They're not going to say, well, wait, don't sell my gold and silver stocks. What I'm telling you is let it drop the 80, 90% and then buy them. That's all I'm saying. You can buy them, but if you know it's going to go down, why do you want to buy it now? Now we can make a bet at the Capitol Grill, and then we'll see who's right. I say stay out. They'll all go down. Then you get back into your gold and silver, and then you can ride the elevator up after it's gone down. That's what I say is happening. You disagree with that. You say, well, no. Gold and silver, those stocks won't go down. And I'm saying all the stocks go down. It's not like gold and silver won't go down. They will. Because the order is going to be sell my portfolio. I need money. The dollar's worthless. So sell all my stocks, not, well, wait, I can wait for gold and silver to go up. No, it's not going to do that. It's all going to go. But we can see who's right, and mark down some gold and silver stocks today, April 26th, and we'll look at them at the end of the year. And when the market crashes, let's see if these don't drop. And I would imagine there's no way that's going to happen. It's all going to go, because they're going to say, sell my portfolio, and the stockbroker is going to sell all of them. He's not going to say, well, wait a minute, how about the gold and silver stocks? Let's keep them, because it'll be too much panic. They'll just sell everything. You saw, go watch the Madoff one on Netflix, right? Oh, it's a bloodbath in there. All the stocks dropped, all of them. Not, well, wait, the gold and silver stocks we held or stuff. So no, that's not how it's going to work.
See this big increase in the gold price despite the fact of this massive inflow into crypto, the stock market still at record high. This is really amazing. If once there is a panic in the market, once this panic hits in, we will see completely different movements than now. By now, it's really a calm market, and as you say, nobody is having gold, or only some crazy people, us included, but far away from any panic.
This is not a precious metals rally. There's a speculative rally into precious metal. So far, we've seen a rally in gold, and that rally in gold is because of geopolitical and world economic events, not because people are now rushing into precious metals, because gold is the king of metals, and gold is now being bought by central banks and by the BRICS countries because they know that they need to actually hold gold to protect themselves in what's going to happen in debt markets and in currency markets. But general investors haven't actually gotten on to that because they're still into their stock market investments. And therefore, as I said, it's been interesting. It's been primarily a gold move. I think silver and mining stocks at some point will catch up. But so far, they're way behind because this is a fundamental secular change in the gold market and not in the precious metals market. That's what people's got to realize. We both know that the U.S. deficits are going to run into annually at trillions, so the debt will grow even further. And as no foreign buyers of U.S. treasuries are interested in holding treasuries anymore, it means that the only one who can actually finance U.S. extravagances or deficits is actually the U.S. government or the Fed itself. Issue the bonds and the Fed has to buy the bonds. That means that it's just banana republic paper with zero value. And that becomes a vicious spiral with debt going up further and further. And therefore also interest rates will have to go up because no one's going to lend to the U.S. government at these low rates. So it'll be much higher interest rates and spiraling debt. Horrible situation for the world that we are now going to see in the next few years.
Deficit in February alone, 296 billion US dollar. And if we compare this to the gold price, at 3,000 tons production. Last year, 207 billion. And this is only the debt of 1 month.
1 month was 300 billion. You know, in 1980, total US debt was under 1 trillion.
Yeah, but that's these are inflated dollars. They're not worth anything.
Billion in 1 month. You can see what's happening to the country. The country is going bankrupt. And of course, is that still the leading economy in the world?
But that's what inflation is. The value of the dollar in 1980 was much higher than it is today, which is my point. And it's going down and down and down, and gold should be much, much higher. If that's the case, why isn't gold $25,000 an ounce right now? Because it's been price fixed. So once that price fix blows up, gold goes to its real value, silver goes to its real value, which are much, much higher. That's my point all the time.
Well, and still, not for long, the leading currency in the world, it means they're dragging the whole world with it, because everybody's going to follow what is happening in the US. It's all going to be a vicious chain of events here with domino effects. The world is not understanding this. Gold is still speculating in stocks and properties, etc., and believe that this is just going to continue because it has for such a long time. They don't know nothing else. The geopolitical situation is frightening. Here you have the biggest economy in the world and the biggest military power still, and that is headless. There is a president who's not running the country. He is sadly too old and not capable of running the country. So you have some people underneath him that are actually pulling the strings, but they're not accountable. But what is happening is also, of course, that present administration, the Democrats will not want to see Trump in power. They will do everything they can to stop him. They've tried with the judicial system by taking him to every court and trying to get him convicted in so many different states in the US for felonies that are very doubtful that he's ever committed. And then they know that they have a deficit now, which is of a magnitude that they can't finance. And the only way to finance debts in such a situation and to get people to actually commit money to buying treasuries, that's by starting a war. Then you can raise more money. And this is why the US is now doing all it can to aggravate the situation in Ukraine by directly attacking Russia. This is a war between the US and Russia. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually start a war and blame the war so they can't have an election, because they cannot face having Trump as president. Of course, Trump has said he will stop the Ukraine war in 1 day by not sending any more money. So that is a very dangerous situation when a political party with no visible leader that has power, because Biden doesn't have the power anymore. That's his underlings that have the power. When they are actually running the world geopolitical situation and a country which is bankrupt on top of that, that means that we can have very dangerous events coming in this year and thereafter. So this is what investors, we don't know it's going to happen. We only know that the risk is of a magnitude that people have to protect themselves. And this is why we come back to gold. Gold is not a solution to everything. Of course it is.
Yeah,
It's not
most
going to solve
things.
the geopolitical problems. It's not going to solve the world financial problems. But individual investors can at least ensure some of their wealth by holding on to the only money that has survived in history and is not as volatile as
Because it hasn't been printed.
property markets. And that's what people should now think about. Hold some physical gold and hold it outside the banking system. It's absolutely critical today.
Because gold can't be printed is what the point is, which he never says. You can't print gold, so of course it's going to keep its value. It has to keep its value because you can't print it. So if you kept the dollar at whatever 500 or whatever 250,000 tons is in gold as dollars, the dollar wouldn't lose its value either. The dollar loses its value because you print 21 trillion in the US and 130 trillion abroad, because everybody abroad has to sell their currency to buy dollars to buy the other currency. It's the strangest, stupidest thing I've ever seen. But they're not doing it anymore. They're starting to go, they're off the petrodollar. China, you've killed Russia. You won't let them trade. So they went around you and they trade in rubles, and they're going to trade in the BRICS. And you're forcing them to do it quickly because how are they supposed to buy stuff? So they're going to go to the gold-backed BRICS currency so they can buy food and clothing, medical, and everything else. Hey, Greg and John, what's up? When's the draft? 8 o'clock again, or is it earlier? 7? Anyway, so that's really the issue for Mark McGuire and Egon. It's all the same thing. It's the dollar being printed to death, and gold is safe haven. Gold's the lifeboat. This is the Titanic. The stock market, the banks, they're all Madoffs. You want to get out of the Madoff, and the only option you have is gold, which is why we're in it. Plus, everybody else will realize that, and it'll be a panic when they realize the boat's sinking. So if you watch the Titanic movie and it hits the iceberg, people have no idea that the boat's going to sink. They're still, give me my tea, give me my, my whiskey, and we're going to go do this, and I'm going to go swimming. And people don't have a clue that they're going to sink. And then it gets close, and then the boat starts going down and down and down, and then they can see that, wait a minute, we're this far into the water, we're fucked. We better get to the lifeboat. And all we're doing is we're ahead of the game. Like I said, we're 5 steps ahead. We already know the boat's sinking. We don't need to see it. We know it because we know they printed it $20 trillion. You print the dollars, that's what happens. It loses value. Hence, it sinks. Hence, what's the lifeboat? And that's all we're doing. We're saying, well, what's the lifeboat? And it's gold and silver. So that's really what the whole point is. I keep hammering that home. Andy Scheckman, I don't understand. He doesn't say anything. He's a vampire, right? Right, Gaga John? He's a vampire. He just talks about, oh, I knew this guy and he did this, and I know a guy, and what the fuck are you talking about? Answer the question about silver was never answered. And, Alligator, even though he talks in Chinese, we still understand what he says. Or Mark McGuire, Egon's very clear, very gets to the point. I think I try to get to the point, but I don't like Andy Scheckman. He just talks. Rick Rule's the worst. He talks, you can't even understand him. He's a total Keynesian. But Andy Scheckman, I don't know what he is. He's not an economist. Who knows? I don't know what he's talking about. Peter Schiff's even worse. He's a bigger vampire. He just talks and talks and talks, doesn't take a break, and doesn't say a word. If you listen to Andy Scheckman, you would not know to buy gold, right? You wouldn't say the dollar's going under, you got to buy gold. At least you get it with Mark, and at least you get it with Egon. So anyway, that's what's going on. This is class number 2. Basically, what I was doing today is I wanted to do a class on just the draft, and then I thought I'd hit baseball with it, and then this is the economics class. So I wanted a different. So in other words, if you wanted to just hear my analysis of the draft, go to the first video. I'm not talking draft or baseball in this one. This is strictly economic, but I wanted to do Gaddafi, and then Egon had something, and then Mark McGuire had something. It's his day. So that's why I'm doing it a little bit like this today. Tomorrow, I will probably just talk draft and baseball and the NBA now. As we're getting into it, we're starting to see who needs the game, and it's all based on that. Baseball, you don't get the same thing on who needs it till the playoffs. Even then, it doesn't matter. Baseball is one of these games. It's all the pitcher. If he's good, you're dead. If he's not good, he's dead. Basketball, it's a team where if you need it, you play good, you can win. And same football. Football backs against the wall. The team's lost the first 2 or 3 games. Brady's done that to us where he's lost. They started out 1-3 when he was on that. Had to sit out the first 4 games for breaking the rules. And then, with that said, then They had to win the 5th game against Miami. He was back, and that was a lock. Their backs were against the wall, had to win, and they won by 30. And that's what you're looking for. You get it mostly at the end of the NFL. The playoffs are both teams are against the back, so it doesn't really help you. NBA does. Baseball, pitching, and we're working on the other whatever other variables we can figure out, we will. But it's very hard to correlate a variable to the outcome. Not in gold. We know the variables in the outcome. Gold, we know. You print the money, you better buy gold because it's going to zero. If the money's not backed by anything and you start printing it, it's zero. That's the variable that you look for. Now, if it's backed by gold, the BRICS countries are going to have gold-backed currency. You can't print it. It's perfect. Nothing can happen. Buy as much as you can. TK, what quarterbacks left are still decent? Well, we know Hartman and maybe the Tulane one, but he's not. Hartman's probably the only one left. I'd love to see Minnesota trade Kirk Cousins now. That would be so perfect. The Vikings need a quarterback. New England needs one. The Giants need a quarterback. Why don't they trade Kirk Cousins to the Giants? And then they have Michael Penix. That would be a great move for him. Well, he was very good, but he broke his ankle and it was turned sideways or upside. It was turned inside out. So he can't even play anymore. He's lucky if he can walk. He had a terrible injury, so he's not playing. He's not drafted. And that's it. Alabama and Ohio State's quarterbacks were worthless. How Michigan's is any good, but the rest of the Big Ten, their quarterbacks aren't any good. It's going to be interesting when this NIL, all the players that are good go to another team. It's kind of crazy. Ohio State's got a very good quarterback in Will Howard this year. Missouri's got an excellent quarterback next year. Cam Rising at Utah is outstanding for next year. But again, that's next year. Texas should be, I don't know if he's eligible next year. Oklahoma, I don't know. Gabriel's very good. He went from Oklahoma to Oregon. He's an exceptional quarterback. Look for him to put up 40 touchdown numbers. So that's where we're at with these guys. But just Hartman's the only one that's a steal in the second round. He should have went where Drake May went and ahead of McCarthy. So he should have went to New England, Hartman. So that's their fault for not realizing. See, they're like the Keynesians. They go, well, we got Drake May. He can throw the ball really well. They're showing you he can throw it well and he can run a little bit. And then I'm saying, but he's not a quarterback. The brick is like this big, my cousin Vinny. That's the problem with him. He's not a good quarterback. If he was, he would have showed it at North Carolina, which he didn't. And the same thing with Michigan quarterback. He just showed it at Michigan. He won a national title, and you still couldn't. You were probably the worst quarterback in the conference. So I don't either. Neither of those are gonna. They're both backups at best. And Drake May is Mitch Trubisky, and J.C. McCarthy is going to be. I don't know. He'll be like Zach Wilson, maybe. Zach Wilson was much better in college than J.J. McCarthy. So I don't think J.J. McCarthy's as good as Zach Wilson. And I don't like the Bo Nix. Bo Nix will be the starter at Denver by a mile. Sean Payton knows what he's doing. He's getting his quarterback. He's a great quarterback, and he can run a little bit. But they didn't get into the Pac-10 championship game by him being lousy. So Sam Hartman, nobody mentioned him. Brock Purdy went last, and just goes to show you how these experts and teams are. Brock Purdy played at Iowa State, and I always liked him, but I didn't think he, be as good as he was in the pros, but it didn't surprise me. And that's what you have here. Hartman, though, was excellent. He was great at Wake Forest, and then he transferred to Notre Dame, and they ran the ball a lot. They had a terrible offensive coordinator. It's not Hartman's fault. It's not like he failed at Notre Dame. They just didn't use him. They ran the ball. So what do you want from him? But he's certainly a very good quarterback. So again, if you take one game and look at him and say, well, look what he did against Ohio State. Well, yeah, you're pretty narrow-minded. Look at the Wake Forest Clemson games when he put up 47 on the good Clemson defense and he threw 45 touchdowns. That's the Hartman I'm looking at. And that's what you're going to get here. I'd rather have Hartman over Steve Young at Carolina, over the guy at New England now, Drake May, over McCarthy. Hartman's 10 times better than all three of those quarterbacks. He's better than Daniel Jones. I don't know what the Giants got their heads up their ass. They take a receiver. Who's going to throw the ball to the receiver? Tyrod Taylor? You think Tyrod Taylor's any good? Oh, my God. The Giants are just – this is why these guys are in last place. The Redskins, at least they got Daniels, who's okay, but I don't know how good he's going to be on Washington. And, same thing with Steve Young at Carolina. He's not going to do anything there. He needs to be at a good team. He needs to be on the Rams where he can then have a good Puka and good receivers and a good defense and a good coach. And that's not what he's got. I don't even know who the coach is. The coach is terrible at Seattle or at wherever he's at. Oakland, New England, I think. The coach is terrible there. So anyway, that's what we got to say. So we'll see. We'll talk about round 2 and 3 tomorrow morning, and then we'll go through everything Sunday morning. Let's see where gold's at. Let's see. It was 23.40. 23.38. So it's holding in there. It did get into the 23.50s, so that's what we're going to see next week. And the most important, the bottom was 23.32 at 10 o'clock, which is always going to be there. So what you're seeing is now the rally keeps going. Now it's 23.30. It gets Monday to 23.50, 23.60. And the down part is 23.40, 23.50. So as it goes up, the down. So this bullshit that happened week ago Friday was simply bullshit. It wasn't the market. It wasn't profit taking. It wasn't a correction. It's just bullshit. And those people need to be thrown in jail for price fixing. But you can see it's bouncing back. It didn't go down because of no demand. It went down because of the bullshit. And now it's back to 23.30. So don't worry about it. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I didn't hear from Daria today, so I'm a little bit worried. I always tell her, and she, okay, I will. And then most of the time she does. And then all of a sudden, see, the last time she was on was 9 o'clock, was 9:48. So something's up with her. Because normally if she's at work, she's texting me, or she's at least texting. She's on at 10, at 12, at 2, at 3. So she hasn't been on since 9:48. So I said to her, are you having fun or did something happen? And, I don't care. See, what I don't understand being Stoic is why she doesn't tell me. Clearly you weren't working today. But yet I didn't hear from her. Last time I heard from her was 2 days ago. I'm at work. I'm good. Kiss You was done on Thursday. Was on Wednesday. So yesterday I don't hear from her. Although I do see some of my things turn blue. And then nothing today, or yesterday, and nothing today. So that's why I'm like, all right, what's going on? What is it you don't want to tell me? Because don't tell me you don't have access. So tomorrow she'll say, now, was there something with the daughter? Was there something She was sick. She had a headache. I mean, it's always a mystery because she doesn't tell me till after. And I always tell her, just tell me what's going on. You don't have to do it. So that's the only problem is sometimes I lose her for a few days. So I'm never sure what's reality because I'm here. And I don't care. Like I said, I just care that she's okay. But when we're on vacation, we'll have a long talk about where do you disappear to for 2 days. I assume I'll hear from her tomorrow, but I don't know. And when I don't, I know she's not at work. I know she needed to go shopping. I gave her money for some clothes, so I don't know. But this is the point. So then I tease her, going, "You with your boyfriend?" And she says, "I don't like Russian men." Okay, but maybe he's Ukrainian. Maybe he's from, Turkey or somewhere. So who knows? But anyway, that's Daria's weakness is when she does this shit. Kind of bothers me, but then, she'll be texting me again. And I'm not really worried about it. I just focus on the vacation. Anyway, the jobs, they seem to be taking 3-4 weeks. They want to interview properly because they want to hire and they want to make sure they make good selections. So we will see what's going on. But all I can do is do the interview, send the thank you letter, and wait. In the meantime, as the gold price goes up, I don't need it. And then to try to teach, I won't. That'll be my job. So we'll take it from there. Anyway, have a good night. Let's watch the draft. Let's watch some 24, whatever else. Have a good night. Enjoy your dinners. And everything will be fine. All right. Buy your gold, buy your silver. Have a nice night. www.teaserking.com. I will see you tomorrow morning.